One of the big headlines coming out of the governor's big press conference yesterday was about reducing the restrictions on our restaurants. Starting this Friday, they are going to be allowed to be open to 50% capacity, and the curfew has been extended to 11 p.m. But does it go far enough? With us now, John McNamara here with us on the MegaCast. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. Our good friend, typically I tell them, hey, we shouldn't book the same guest over and over unless it's newsworthy. And here we are. I feel like we should just have you like a weekly, let's just set up a weekly spot for you.
I don't blame you for that, and I look forward to the day where I don't hear from you guys for a while, because that means we're at 100% capacity and it's nice out, and this virus is behind us. So that will be a great day for all of us.
So your thoughts on the governor's announcement yesterday?
So progress is always positive, and I don't want to discount that, but it was not the progress we were hoping for. So we are at 50%, but it's 50% with a 100-person cap. So I actually have members who, when it was 25%, 6 feet apart, no hard cap, they're actually losing capacity with that restriction. So, that was not something we were expecting, because it hadn't been in the order before, and all of a sudden it was there. So, and also, going from a meeting and event space where all of a sudden you can have 25 people inside your 10,000-foot ballroom instead of 10, but you can have 30% capacity in your pool. Just some of these just don't make sense.
See, this is why we love talking to people such as yourself, because you're so much more knowledgeable about the ins and the outs of some of these orders and these decisions, because we just see the headline. And the headline makes it seem like, hey, it's not what restaurants want, but it's more than what they had. But when you break it down like that, there are so many nuances to it that we need to understand as well in the public.
Yeah, so if you're a smaller operation, it was a pretty good day for you yesterday. If you were a bigger operation like a Buffalo Wild Wings, it was either status quo or you lost a little bit yesterday. Coming into March Madness, and it looks like my Spartans are playing some better basketball, so you're going to have 2 teams from the state in that tournament, and people are going to want to go out and gather, and they might not be able to, so they're going to gather in people's homes without masks, without social distancing. And listen, no one's following the 3 household, 15 people thing, and they never will. So they can be safer in restaurants than they can be at homes.
You were so right on that. All it's doing, I think, in a lot of cases, and I do know a lot of situations where people, even when the restaurants and the bars were being closed at 10, they were like, okay, everyone come to my house. And so then you were putting them in a closer, more confined space. But John, I wonder too, what is this going to be like for some of these larger venues to have to try to explain to some of their customers, no, we can have fewer customers? When they see the headlines, the general public doesn't understand. It can make it a tough discussion for some of these business owners.
It is, but they're used to having those tough. They've been having those tough discussions for coming up on 1 year, so they're used to doing that. But all we want and all we're asking for, and we understand we cannot be at 100% capacity right now. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's the appetite for 100% capacity right now. But what we do need is that we need a plan moving forward of at these different metrics, you can be open at this percentage. Michigan is the only state to not have that. 49 other states have that in place. We have provided that to the governor. We gave it to her in December. And so far, no request for a meeting, no discussion about it.
I've seen the image that has been going around social media that your association put out that really kind of broke down what all of the states were doing around us. Yep. What type of impact has that had on the response for your organization in these discussions?
I think they've been fantastic for the general public just to see how different Michigan is. I mean, we were not expecting that type of response to go to, I mean, that thing blew up. I had a friend text me from Florida saying it was going around Facebook down in Florida. So, I mean, I think it's a bad look for Michigan nationally that this is so out of balance. But, you know, even in terms of, you know, people from Metro Detroit going to Toledo, people, you know, from the Kalamazoo area heading down to Indiana and South Bend. So people are still dining out. They're just doing it in other states. And Indiana's tourism sector continues to grow. They have picked up speed. They've added employees, whereas next to Hawaii, Michigan has lost the second most in the country.
So with that, John, I have to say I've been out and about quite a bit over the past few weeks, and I've been surprised at the difference in some of the restaurants and the businesses that have been trying to adhere to that 25% capacity. Some of the really higher end restaurants haven't been, but some of the lower end, more dive bars where you wouldn't think they would really care have been more strict on the rules. What are you guys hearing from your members right now?
So from our members, you know, we're hearing that they want to be open and 25% isn't enough and 50% isn't enough. But, you know, we're also hearing that if things like, if it's going to be 6 feet, if you have, you know, if you're a breakfast place with a lot of booths, could you put up plexiglass in between and have that count for 6 feet? So they're happy to do it. They would like a little more flexibility on how to get to 6 feet. But again, what they want and what they deserve, because every other state has one from their governor, is a plan to move forward from here to there. And they're willing to accept if there's a big spike that they have to go backwards. They understand that's part of the deal. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Michigan is doing a very good job getting shots in arms. I think we'll be getting, even better now that Johnson's there, but they want a plan of this is 50, 50 no cap, this is 75, and dare I say it, someday 100.
John McNamara with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. And with that, John, I know that your organization has been trying to work with the governor, and you put out a press release a couple weeks ago or last week trying to talk about, hey, how can we manage this and connect the numbers with the numbers. So, hey, let's allow so many people in the restaurants or close the restaurants if a certain area has a certain positivity rate. Can you go into more detail with that?
Sure. So, I mean, it is, all we heard for the past year from the governor is science and data, science and data, science and data. So, we took science and data and, added it that, really when Michigan goes, above 10, you're limited, and then if it's above 15, you're shut down. And then, it needs to get to 10, and then between 7 and 5. And then when we get below 3, which we're in that in some areas in this state, and I think we'll be closer here soon, then you're open. You're open at, you're open as you would be if it were safe to be out and if this were pre-COVID. And we think that's a fair plan. We think it's safe. And, our members and any restaurateur in any state in the country, the vast majority of them go out of their way to protect guests and make sure that every guest has the best experience possible. And we just want our members to be able to prove that they can do it.
So we were talking a little bit earlier about the graphic that was going around on social media that your organization put out, and some things we're looking at is Wisconsin has no restaurant capacity restrictions. Illinois has changed theirs recently. I think for us, the big ones really have to do with Ohio and Indiana, because they're so close to us as well.
Correct.
Indiana, no restaurant capacity restrictions. I do know that over the past so many months, I was going to Ohio quite frequently to work on our mother's house, and every time I went down, I was like, let me go to a restaurant because I can't eat in a restaurant in Michigan.
Right.
It was just the experience to have that. But I'm also seeing so many people are going to other states such as Florida right now.
Yes.
Spring break is a big time. So what has been the response from the governor's office in your talks with her? Have you been able to get anywhere in the talks with the governor, and did you expect her announcement of the lift of some of the restrictions yesterday?
So we continue to have good dialogue with the governor's staff. We have not talked with the governor. She joined our board meeting in July. That would have been the last time we had a direct conversation with her. And in terms of the plan on how to reopen, they have acknowledged they've received it, but we have not had any substantive conversations on how to implement it. And again, we fully admit there's probably areas there where it needs to be tweaks and need to be changed. And all we're asking for is a conversation with her and her team on how to get this plan in place and how do we get there. And there's going to be give and take. There always is. That's how this business works, and that's how all business works. But again, if 49 other states can do it, why can't Michigan?
And on the backside, we do know that there are going to be a lot of people that aren't comfortable with going to a restaurant and eating indoors, and that's okay. Continue to support your local restaurants, do carry out, maybe do the outdoor igloos. Everyone has a different comfort level right now. My husband's comfort level is a little bit different than my comfort level, but there's a lot of focus right now on the restaurants. What about the catering industry and the banquet industry right now? We still can't do, kind of these buffets and things of that nature, right?
We cannot, and I mean the catering and banquet event space in hotels are the ones that have sort of been lost in all this because people hear restaurants, and while hotels were never shut down, business travel was obviously halted this past year. Leisure travel was severely limited. So they've been equally as hurt. And again, right now, you can have in a 10,000 square foot ballroom, you can have 25 people. In a hotel pool, you can have 30% of your capacity. So it doesn't, those don't make sense. But, these people live and breathe on these events and these meetings. And when you can't have them, it kills their business. But also, what's the difference in putting people 6 feet apart in a ballroom between 6 feet apart in a restaurant? I don't see the difference. And, at one point we had 20 people per 1,000 square foot. That was workable. It was understandable. That seems to have gone to the wayside. And now we're picking these numbers probably out of thin air of how to get to 25. But, the governor's office refuses to just, offer the information of why 25? Why not 20 people per square foot? Why not 50 people per square foot or per 1,000 square feet?
And I will say, I'm going to continue my rant here for a minute, because if you're our elected leaders and you believe in the science and the data behind your decisions, provide us the raw numbers. It goes back with what we were talking about at the top of the show, Tyler, is we want the public, I don't care who is in office, it doesn't matter. It's our information. It's our data. We're paying for it, and we're paying your salary. Mm-hmm. So you need to answer to us. You work for us. Give us the information. Don't operate in a vacuum. And if you're working under politics, say, hey, it's politics. I don't care, but we deserve it.
Tell us something.
Right.
Absolutely.
We deserve it. And John, this has to be so frustrating for you and your members as well.
Yeah, I never thought, 14, almost a year ago, when it was 14 days to flatten the curve, that, I would have been on here probably 7 to 10 times, and we'd still be talking about this. And, my members would not have been, at most we're open at 50% for the past year. And, we're well over 3,000 restaurants closed in Michigan, and that number is going to continue to climb. And hopefully this is over soon. I hope by June, July, everyone who wants a vaccine has a vaccine in their arm, and I hope we're 100% capacity. And, I hope no one ever has to deal with a global pandemic ever again. It's not, in some ways it's been a long year. In some ways it seems it's been so much work. It seems like it's been, a short year.
John McNamara with us. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs at the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. And John, just to circle back real quick to the hotels and the banquet halls who have been lost in all this, as you had said. For a lot of the hotels, they do have that support of a corporate chain, but for a lot of these banquet halls and for some hotels too in the state of Michigan, they are independently owned like a lot of our restaurants and have been financially struggling over the course of this now nearing 12 months of the pandemic as well. With the regulations being where they're at, with them being as strapped as they are financially at this point in time, how much longer do they have? How much time do these independent businesses that have been kind of put to the wayside because the restaurants have taken the press in this situation, how much longer do they really have, and how well are they surviving, if at all?
I think they have a couple months left, but I want to go back a little bit. So the vast majority, I mean, your corporate chains, about 90% of your Marriotts are not corporate; they're independently owned.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people do. You know, and it's just another thing that industry people know. But you know, you're a franchisee when you buy those, so you're still a small business owner. You're making payroll, you're paying utilities, and you know, if you have a bad month, corporate's not going to say, "Oh, sorry, here's the check." So I mean, I think the hotels are next if something doesn't change quickly. And you know, what are you going to do with a big empty hotel? So it's a scary, scary thought if something doesn't change here quickly for our members on the hotel, event, and banquet side.
So, John, I will say I was a little bit surprised that she did lift the capacity limits on the restaurants prior to St. Patrick's Day.
So, I mean, that was somewhat surprising. But, I mean, in some ways, and for your bigger establishments, she didn't lift the capacity. For your bigger establishments, with that 100-person cap, in some ways, she cut the capacity for your bigger bars. So, you know, St. Patrick's Day will be interesting. I think you're going to see a lot of people will go to the bar early and then go to a house party. I see that every day in East Lansing. I live right down the street from campus, and kids have just flipped it. They're now going to the bar earlier and going home and not masking and not social distancing instead of doing the opposite. So people are going to gather. They can do it far more safely in restaurants than they can in homes, but it's been a year. People are sick of it, and they're not going to stop gathering.
That is so true. I will say last year, right before St. Patrick's Day, I had joined the Gaelic League of Detroit and was so looking forward to my first St. Patrick's Day as a member of the Gaelic League. And then it got canceled. And I was like, I'm still going. And I got down there early because I do the race every year in Corktown, and there was no one there but me and my girlfriend. And we were like, okay, I guess they really are shut down right now. But with that, though, John, we always appreciate everything that you and your team members are doing. And we all want our community to be safe. And we are in this together. But all we're asking for is clarity and the science behind the decision making. And I think we all want that. And I know that you're frustrated and your members are frustrated. But again, we all want everyone to be safe in this pandemic as the vaccines. Before we let you go, any word on if they will include some of the restaurant workers in some of the essential frontline vaccine distribution schedules?
We continue to make that ask, and you've seen some counties prioritize restaurant workers as frontline workers, which they absolutely are. So we're hoping maybe, with the city of Detroit doing it and Oakland County including it in some areas, that this will start a trend, and maybe counties just start to do it, and that's how it gets done. But those employees are out there. Rules are changing every day, and they're continuing to do their best to let people enjoy some time away, and even if it's a little slice of reality, the best that they can.
So, John, has this past year been like dog years for you? You feel like you worked 7 years in one?
Well, yes, and especially since I started at MRLA in late February. So I was on the job about 3 weeks before all this started. So definitely been baptism by fire.
Well, you've done a great job, and we've always appreciated your time. And we hope that by doing these interviews, we're helping to inform the public, because the information is changing so rapidly. It's so hard to keep up on the changes. So we always appreciate your time.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much.